That would be line in. That's the one. There we go. There we go. How's that? See, I'm not going to know for the next 20 seconds until you guys actually get this. Yeah, I know there's no audio, folks. I literally said that in the chat. I'll wait for you guys to pick this up. I want to make sure that I'm not blowing your eardrums out. View this. No, I don't think I'm going to fix it. I think I'm just gonna talk in like a mute fashion. That should be perfect. Welcome to Noob Studio. Thanks, Trucker. I appreciate it. Thanks for the love. All right, I'm glad that the audio is there now. I apologize if the audio peaks randomly. I've noticed that you guys have pointed it out, and I assumed that it was just me moving closer and further from the mic, but I'm pretty sure it's auto leveling. But I don't have anything set by default in Streamlabs for that, and my soundboard is, there's nothing, you know, to do on the soundboard with that, so I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I am here to answer all of your beautiful questions. So if you have a question that you would like to ask, now would be the time to do so. I also would like to invite you guys to have an open discussion in the chat section about stuff that just entertains you, you know, stuff that doesn't necessarily have to do with what we're talking about at that certain point in time. We can certainly change subjects and then go back to what we were talking about previously. I want this to be an open discussion. That's why I do these live streams. I have fun with these, and I have fun interacting with you guys. It's just a way to be more personal. So I appreciate all of you again watching. It means a lot to me that y'all are willing to take time out of your Sunday night to do that, or Monday morning, depending on where you are. Well, what's going on, the greatness? Appreciate that $2 super chat. Thank you. He says, hey, I'm back. Mega Man X992 subscribed. You guys like my animations? I think they're pretty dope. I mean, come on. It's Crash. Who doesn't like Crash Bandicoot? Let's see. Mashed Potatoes asks, is 90 degrees C okay on DDR2 ECC RAM? I'm not sure about those RAM modules, or those modules in particular, but yeah, ECC RAM will run really hot. And it's recommended that you have some sort of active cooling unit. Put a fan over those DIMMs, or you know, do something that will keep them cool, because they get extremely hot. And when I was a noob, back when I was just started building stuff like this, kind of more in depth, I didn't know that ECC RAM got that hot. So don't be afraid. Just make sure you got something at least passively cooling it. But that is something that I didn't know about a while back. That it's just the nature of the RAM. I would like to do more research into why it gets so hot. I'm curious now. This sounds like a really cool Minute Science video. Yeah, look at that. James says, Crash is it since PS1. That is what's up. Alright, we got Brett Van Spruenberg. Question. He asks, hold on, I gotta see this here. Is it okay to run AIO pump on a fan curve, PWM or volts, Fractal S24? Okay, so this is actually a pretty interesting question. In my testing, it's better for a pump to just run at a standard RPM. I'm not sure, I haven't run a pump for 5 years to figure out if it's going to last 5 years running, with a curve or just running at a flat RPM. The way I see it, keep your pump at like a set RPM. You're going to be perfectly fine there. And most of the time for these smaller Asetek pumps and the like, you're going to want to keep the pump RPM around the medium setting. I'd say around 50-60%. You could max it out. It won't really do you any harm. But the argument between having a slow pump versus a really strong pump, they pretty much neutralize each other, because if you have a weaker pump, right, the fluid spends more time in the radiator. If you have a stronger pump, it doesn't spend as much time over the CPU block or whatever you're trying to cool. So there's an up and down there. But I would say, keep it, just pick an RPM that you're comfortable at audio-wise. Make sure your temps aren't spiking, and your pump should be strong. And of course, if you turn your pump down too far, then you're going to have some serious thermal issues. So you'll figure it out. You'll get that nice comfort zone, and just keep it flat. That's what I do. I don't throw a fan curve on it. It's not good for the pump to change RPMs kind of like on demand, like especially if you're doing a lot of workloads or having your CPU get really hot and then back cool and then hot again and then back cool. That's a lot of stress on that pump that's used to just running at a flat out RPM. Bazinga X, he gives that $5 donation. Thank you for that. What do you think of the Samsung 49-inch widescreen for general gameplay, word, etc.? I think it's too wide. I'm pretty sure you mean Samsung, but I don't like how wide it is. I think it's a little too much. If you ask me, I'm just not into that ultra wide form factor. Yeah, it's a little hardcore. You guys feel me? Feel it? All right. Someone asked, Mr. Razor says, Gamax GT on an 8700K. It's a good question. I have that. Actually, I have that cooler, and I have thrown it onto an 8400, and it cools beautifully. It's also fairly quiet, which is a great thing. On an 8700K, I'm not sure. It depends on your overclock. If you want to reach a high frequency, you're going to have a bit of a problem there. Trucker Bomb, did I like your shirt? Of course I liked your shirt. I called you out on Twitter for it. I loved your shirt. He like took our logo and then just straight up like made a shirt with it. It's pretty dope, actually. Make the logo a little smaller next time, though. It needs to be less. It's just not as subtle as I might like it if I was designing it myself. We have Techno Nerds. Are there any new series in the works for your channel? Not too sure yet. I want to get something going. I want to spice it up, you know, because we've been doing the same thing for just it's minute science, right? And then there's some crash course kind of worked in there, and that's basically it, you know. And then we do have our general benchmarking videos and the videos where I kind of talk about like the trends and people's reactions to stuff, and the Craigslist videos. I think the iRead playlist is a really unique one on our channel. Even though it really doesn't have much to do with science, there's still something you can learn from some of these ads, especially on Craigslist. Sometimes I just read hate comments just to do it because it's entertaining. It's just a way to lighten the mood when people take things so seriously and personally. But I think we're gonna try to do something. At least open up one new playlist here soon. I'm more or less waiting though for a couple things to fall in line. We have Computex coming up. We're gonna be gone for that for a while. I'll be in Germany with Lisa for a week before and then a week after, and so we're gonna do a lot of traveling, and we're doing a lot of things that are out of the box anyway for the channel. Tech stores, you know, we do stuff like that. So that's already going to be a change big time. But then when we come back in June, I think we're going to try to kick things off a little differently. We're going to give the channel a big makeover and just try to, I don't know, vamp up the entertainment value a little bit, you know, like get you guys more into the stuff we're doing on like a more personal basis. I want to do more things like this. I want to interact more with the patrons, Patreon donors on Discord. I want to do live streams strictly for them. By the way, if you are a Patreon supporter, I invite you to hop into the Discord right now if you can and ask your question on Discord. I will give you guys priority. You guys don't need to throw money at me or anything like that to answer a question. If you want my attention, you guys already support us, so just ask a question on there and I will do my best to get to it as soon as possible. And I appreciate you guys supporting on there. Okay, so getting over to we got another one from the Greatness, another $10, my dude. All right, so he has $1,000 to upgrade these parts. Any suggestions? We got a 7700K. He's got a good motherboard with it, 1080 Ti, M.2. 2 terabyte hard drive, 16 gigs of RAM, 750 watt power supply. What are you gaming at right now? What's your gaming resolution? Do you want to stream? Do you want to content create? What's your path? I need to know more than this, because right now your system's fine. You're in the top 5-10% of PCs out there. So unless you just want to brag right here, which okay, I'd say you're already in a comfort zone. Unless you want to do again some more multitasking workloaded stuff, I would say Threadripper is a pretty good route, just budget-wise. Again, though, that's going to cost you more than just $1,000 on the CPU and the platform in total. Let's see. Yeah, I see you, Trucker Bomb. Yeah, it should be, I would say, a fourth as large as that. Just make it subtle. You know, something small, like a logo on a T-shirt, you know, normally looks. I think you're fine, the Greatness, where you are. Let's see here. Joner Games. Did I say that right? What's SEK? What is that? I feel like I should see, I don't even know. I'm gonna try. Thanks for the donation. Can you overclock 2600 RAM to 2900 plus for Ryzen 7? 2600 RAM for Ryzen 7. Which Ryzen 7? I need to know specific. Which Ryzen are you talking about? Are you talking about Ryzen or Ryzen Plus? And are you talking about 2600 megahertz RAM to 2900 plus? It depends. If you're talking about Ryzen Plus, then yeah, you could probably get that. You might have to bump your timings up though, which most of the time they level out. Overclocking RAM is, in my opinion, a pointless endeavor because you're always going to compromise somewhere. And look, all of these dies are binned anyway. Like the manufacturers of these DIMMs know exactly what frequency and what timings work out perfect, and I wouldn't really tinker with those too much. It's just not really worth it. Scrolling down here, I see you guys. I see you. Something about a chainsaw gaming. What type of coolant do you recommend I use for my first custom loop? Well, I want to go with white fluid, but I don't know if it will mess up my blocks. Well, I'll tell you this, any fluid that's not clear will likely clog your blocks within the first 3 or 4 months. And even if you've done like the most intense scrubbing of your radiators, if you've just like, you know, acid washed everything and made sure that your tubes were perfectly clean and that your pump was spotless, all of that still will result in some kind of gunk buildup with an opaque fluid. I'm running white fluid right now in the winter build, and I can already see the CPU block starting to clog up, and that's after like what, 2 weeks, and I cleaned everything. I made it spotless. So you're just gonna have to assume you know, a heavy maintenance workload when it comes to throwing fluid that's not clear into a loop. And even if it's clear, you know, even if it's transparent, you're still going to probably have some buildup of sediments and residue in the radiators. You might have some kind of growth accumulate over time. You'll have things anodize. It's just inevitable. It's kind of a mess, but it's a fun mess because it's like your baby. It's your artwork, and you're just maintaining your artwork. That's how I see it. Excuse me. Okay. I see a white monster with an X in the front, X in the middle, and an X at the end. How do you feel on Linus's video about delidding a CPU and putting the cooler directly on the CPU? Okay, so I don't know about what Linus did with this. I didn't see that video, but I do know that Der Bauer, who I met at CES this year, he was kind of like the co-builder of the Lian dynamic case. He actually sells a delidding kit for, I don't know if he sells it for just X99, but I know that for those chips in particular, he has a kit where you can pull off that IHS and then just strap a cooler directly onto the die, which is much more efficient, especially when it comes to Intel CPUs, because they don't use the nicest TIM, right? The thermal interface between the die and the IHS. So delidding has its place, especially in the enthusiast space. I would say for 90% of you, it's not going to matter getting that extra 200 or 300 megahertz or that 10-degree drop. That might be more worth it to you. But I've never had a need personally to delid. I think it would be cool to do as an experiment to show you guys on the channel. But I've never personally felt the need to do it. Like I don't feel like I need to delid. So just something to keep in mind. It's definitely an enthusiast thing. Excuse me. All right. Ryzen, is that Ryzen? Lightman? I think it's Ryzen. Let's go with that. I feel like your fanboy video didn't touch enough on the fact that backwards compatibility doesn't exist with Intel, and that you'd be upgrading, not building all brand new, if you put a 2000 series. I'm confused. I'm pretty confused there. With Kaby Lake, it was the same story. With Kaby Lake, you had to have a Skylake motherboard with an updated BIOS, right, in order to be able to run these CPUs. I'm almost confident that was the case. It's been this case for a long time, and not just on AMD's side. Intel has had the same exact thing go on in the past. Back as far back, geez, 4 or 5 generations. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure about any further than that, but I know that they had backwards compatibility. This is not just an AMD isolated thing. And I'm just pointing out, I pointed out in that video, that if he's going to point out that AMD, is doing this to consumers and that's why you shouldn't buy AMD, he's being hypocritical, because Intel did the exact same thing with the Kaby Lake launch. You had to have a Skylake CPU, right? Or you had to have basically the old platform set up already with an updated BIOS by the time Kaby Lake rolled out in order to use that chip on the existing platform. That's exactly what I said in the video. So I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Steven Acker, what were the specs of your first custom PC build? Steven, type in Blue Sky Custom Loop Science Studio on YouTube, and you'll get to watch the 4-part series. All the specs are in there. I don't want to go through list and everything. Let's see. It's a bonus that you can even pop a 2000 series CPU and extra. Yeah, exactly. And Dylan, that's what I said. I said in the video, like, look, we should be thankful. It's a blessing that we can do that, because, you shouldn't expect 12 nanometer nodes to work on a 14 nanometer chipset, right? Or a chipset that's designed around a different process. Because this is, while it's a refresh in the sense that the architectural layout on the, when it comes to how things are structured internally within the die aren't very different, the process is still different. and this required, you know, entirely new wafer manufacturers. Everything had changed. So the fact that we can still use these chipsets on the new technology, when these chipsets were, you know, being developed years before this technology ever came into existence, is a blessing. It really is. Chip Wheel, I don't know, his name starts with CH. CH Will, my eyes itching, excuse me. Is it possible to have too much of a, oh no, too small of a radiator for the heat load your system is producing? It sure is. If you put a 120 mil rad into a system with two 1080 Ti's and a, I don't know, let's pick an outrageous CPU. Let's do the 7980XE. Then a single 120 mil rad is not going to cut it. Your fans will be running full blast, and even then you have to downclock, or your components will thermal throttle, because there's no way a 120 mil rad will be able to dissipate that much heat, even with a fan at full speed with those three equipped. So yeah, there's definitely a point at which you have too few radiators, or just too little radiator surface area. Let's see here. It's Slendy says, please read this. Can you look up the Trace 930 and see if the price is good? Trace 930? I feel like I'm being trolled. I buy power Trace 930? Okay, let's see. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and pull this up on the big screen. I'm going to switch to, is that going to work? Alright, whatever. It looks really trashy, but you guys get it. We have here, okay, Asus H110 Plus, ADATA 20, this is oddly vague. Oh no, that's, I want the actual specs. Why am I on the review page? That was weird. Anyway, okay, we have, why is it so difficult to find this crap? 7700 locked, 16 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive, 120 gig SSD, 1060. Ballpark, I would say around, in this market, 800 to $1,000 bucks. $1,000 being the high end, which I would feel probably a little uncomfortable. They want $1,200 for it. I think it's a little too much. You're only getting a 1060 in there, and just on principle, like, you could build this system, you know, a year ago for, you know, $800 maybe. You could get a 1070 for sure, and a system priced like this a year ago. So I think this is just a little too expensive. I wouldn't buy it. That's just my take, though. Let's see, Bazinga X. I see that $10 donation. Thank you, my dude. What gaming chair would you recommend for a large man? 300 plus pounds. Yes, I know I need to lose weight, but for now, looking for a new chair. I appreciate the honesty. And look, you need to lose a few pounds. I need to gain a few pounds, okay? So we're on the same boat, just opposite ends of it. I am going to, let's see. I'm going to look this up because my go-to is always Vertigear. Look, to date, I haven't taken a dime from Vertigear, but I love their stuff, and I always ask for more of it. And I've had multiple gaming chairs from multiple companies. I'm pretty sure the PL6000 or the SL5000 from Vertigear is going to be pretty sweet for you. And these chairs aren't going to crush you, right? So the chair I'm in now honestly barely fits me. Like the supports here on the side pop out enough to where, and they're narrow enough to where I fit almost perfectly in it. I don't have a really wide frame. But for someone who's 300 pounds, you're going to probably want something that's maybe 1.5 times this wide, or, you know, if you want to be really comfortable, 2 times this wide, but that chair is going to look really odd. So what they tend to do is just reduce the support on the side so it doesn't cut into your waist or into the sides of you, and you just want a chair that has a bit more flexibility and that's a bit softer in general if you're a bigger person. I recommend the Vertigear SL5000 or the PL6000. I would look into those first. I just always go to Vertigear because I've loved their stuff since the beginning, and hopefully the one that you get actually fits for you. But hey, if it doesn't, if it's like just, you know, like a tight squeeze, boom, motivation, just get out there and lose some weight. Just run and drop carbs. That's what I would do. That'd be the first thing I did. The greatness, another $5. My dude. Would it be worth it to upgrade from a 7700K to an 8700K? Also, you missed my previous dono. Let me see, I'm scrolling down here. I don't see it. Oh, trying to get into content creation and 4K gaming. 4K gaming, your CPU is not going to matter at all. If you want 4K gaming, bump up your graphics card, get a second 1080 Ti. For streaming and content creation, 8700K is going to be really good for that. I would say 8700K and two 1080 Ti's are going to be fine if you really have a hole in your pocket. But you could get by with 4K gaming on your current setup. I also saw a donation from it's a Canadian. All right, Canadian $5. What is that, like $1? No, I'm just messing with you. It probably is though. It's just currency is really weird. Hey Greg, first timer on your stream. This is from Executor Adun. I think I said that right. First time in your stream here. My queue is about my newly purchased Ryzen 5 1500. Windows 7 x64 update says my CPU is not supported. How do I fix this? That's weird. So how are you booting into your system if your CPU is not supported? I feel like there's a certain software in Windows 7 that's messing with that. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know if Windows 7 is still supported even on Ryzen. I've never used Windows 7 in the past 2 or 3 years. So that is a question you'll have to Google, my friend. And I hate to tell you that because you gave me money, but I'm not as familiar with Windows 7. I'm sure somebody in the chat knows. Is Windows 7 still supported by Ryzen or vice versa? Does Ryzen 5 support Windows 7? I think someone in the chat will know. Keep a lookout for that. Scrolling through here, what am I seeing? I see one from Ivan Jovanovic for gaming, 2600X or i5 8600K with a GTX 1060. Ivan, if you're just gaming, i5. I think you know the answer to that. It's the i5. If you're just going to strictly game, the i5 is going to give you a higher frame rate in almost every single scenario. But if you want to do more than just gaming, this is something we've all said. Like every tech tuber said this. Then go with Ryzen because it's better. It's a well-rounded CPU and it's a great value for what it is. Travis Henry, all elementary and middle schools and the high school all use Windows 10 VMs from one server. 500 plus computers. It has like 64 gigs of RAM. Ouch. And a single Xeon 10 core 2.4 gigahertz. So I assume you're splitting like a tenth of a core on like a good day in your school. That's terrible. And like you're getting like what, 500 megabytes of RAM at your disposal. That is so painful. I'm really curious now. When I was in high school, what we were running on. They were all servers, or they were all running off of servers. But I really wonder. I mean, these were legit PCs though. It was more or less like the data networking thing that was all server oriented. But for VMs, that's really rough. I know Will does a lot of stuff with VMs. He has a ton of servers, and he always tries to allocate at least, I think, at least 2 gigabytes of RAM for a storage server. You don't even really need that. I think Windows requires 2 gigs, but and then a couple Xeons or whatever, and you can give each VM 2 cores or something along those lines. But that's really taking it to an extreme there. I'm not as familiar with servers as you can tell, but I do know the basics of how to split up resources on virtual machines, and that's pretty ouch. And Jerry Jenkins asks how often I'll be doing live streams. Every Sunday, my dude. If you go back on this playlist, check out the After Hours playlist. Every Sunday where there's not some kind of like holiday in the States or I don't make an announcement, right? We'll be doing it every Sunday with those exceptions. Scrolling down here, Pop Nim Pop, what going on, my dude? $1.99 donation. Did you do any benchmarks on ABC MouseNet yet? Not yet. I will though. I will. Blake Fassa, the last name. Whew. Will you do a review of the Dell XPS 13 9270 and XPS 13? No, I won't because I have to go buy them myself. Dell doesn't send me any of that stuff, so unless I get one from somebody, yeah, I would do it on a loaner, but I don't even get loaners from people, so no, not unless someone sends me one. Matt Kyle. Matt, you have 2 first names, right? Matt Kyle. I've never seen the last name Kyle before, unless it's not your last name. It might be your middle name. A few of the computers at my work are still using XP. Ouch. Yeah, my school used XP for the longest time. That said, though, this was back in like 2010, right? So XP was still the hot thing, at least in schools. I see somebody says, hey Greg, let's see, this is Frenzy Clan. Hey Greg, my birthday is coming up soon. I wanted to know some peripherals I should get. Do you have any suggestions? I think Corsair stuff's really good. Cooler Master stuff's going to be, in general, a bit cheaper, but still great quality stuff for what it is. So if you want something that's a little cheaper, I think Cooler Master is the way to go. Corsair, I think, is a bit more premium in most cases. If you want to go like ultra high-end stuff, or just like, name brand stuff that a lot of people who don't know what Corsair is will recognize, you could go with Razer stuff. We have a Razer Kraken 7.1 here. I use it on this PC. Actually, Lisa uses it. I bought it for her. And then I have another Corsair headset that's under NDA that you guys will see very soon. I love that headset from Corsair too. Much better than the Void Pro, in my opinion. I see Tyler Patton here. Hey Greg, would you be interested to learn that prolonged fasting can actually increase your HGH levels if you're trying to bulk up? Interesting. I find that very hard to believe, mainly because I've gone several days without eating before. Not because I mean, I've eaten stuff, but like not a lot of stuff, just because I've been traveling, and I definitely lose weight. So I don't see where the cutting back on food increases HGH, because muscle requires protein synthesis, and the only way to synthesize proteins is to eat foods that have necessary amino acids. So it's a little weird. Michael Matty, $2.99. I think that's Australian dollar. I appreciate that. Best/worst opaque coolants you've ever used. I've used about three or so opaque coolants. The worst one was the C1000. It was a Thermaltake C1000 blue coolant. That was blue opaque. That was my first build ever, and it actually stained the tubes. It was so bad. I had to tear apart the entire build. They were really cool about it. They offered to replace everything. I told them it's not a big deal. Just send more tubing, and I'll clean out the blocks and whatnot. So that was my worst experience. But I'm using, actually right now, Primo Chill stuff. It's Primo Chill. It's like it's one of those opaque concentrates. I forget what they call it. But it comes in a little pack. Comes with a little treater if you want to treat your loop beforehand. And that stuff does pretty good. It still clogs the loop, but nowhere near as quickly as the Thermaltake stuff did. And then I also use some opaque stuff from Alpha Cool. It's kind of in the middle. It's still clogged, but again, nowhere near as quickly as Thermaltakes did. So the best opaque stuff I've used is Primo Chill stuff. I haven't used View yet, so I don't want to comment on View, although it doesn't look too great. And I haven't used what's the other one from? I'm trying to think. It's View, and then what's the other one that has the Aurora? Aurora from. Geez, I should know this. Whichever company online makes Aurora Mayhem, Mayhems, yeah, it's a Mayhems dye, but that's also kind of like a metallic looking fluid, and I hear that's not great either. So, yeah, opaques are always a little risky. Bask3, thank you for that $5 donation. Whenever I boot my PC into Windows 10, my disk is maxed out, and I have to give it about 5 minutes to go before I can use it. Is it a hard drive? Because if it's a hard drive, that makes sense. Pardon my very childish country accent, whatever you want to call that. Any idea why? If it's a hard drive, I can tell you that you probably have like 10 or so programs at least starting up as Windows starts up. Hit Control-Alt-Delete and go over to Startup, the Startup tab, assuming, yeah, you're in Windows 10. Click the Startup tab. Check how many programs you got starting up immediately, like right away, if they're enabled. And then it will tell you kind of like the burden that each of those programs has on the ability for your system to boot up quickly. Hard drives in general require a minute or two to finally initialize all the startup programs before you can start using the UI and have it be very fluid. That's just my experience there. So if you have an HDD, that's exactly what's causing it. And you probably have a lot of startup programs slowing it down in the beginning. Bazinga X. $5, my dude. So you feel that Vertigear is better than DX Racer? Just asking as I do not know. I've never used DX Racer, so I don't know. I just know I'm really happy with Vertigear, so I can't comment on DX Racer. I have no feelings about them because I've never used them before. I think they've reached out once or twice, but by this point I was already satisfied with the stuff I had from Vertigear. I didn't want to jump ship. You know, they're a really cool company. I appreciate companies that respond quickly. You know, companies that don't lead you on and like, well, let me get back to you on this. And then 2 weeks later, you got to go back to them and say, hey, You told me you would get back to me on this. It's been like half a month. You know, what's going on? And like, oh, we're still in talks about it. Let's get back to you another week. And they just keep dragging you on and on. And then after a month, they come back to you and you say, sorry, we don't want to work with you. It's like, you could have just told me that in the beginning. That's all you had to say. It was just, we don't want to work with you. I wouldn't have taken it personally. It's all business and just moved on. But of course, you don't have that in today's day and age. Everyone's got to, you know, sugarcoat everything and just prolong the inevitable. And I don't like that at all. So Vertigear is one of those companies where I have a really great experience, not only with their PR and marketing teams, but also just on the consumer side. I like how they engage with fans. I like how NZXT does this as well, especially on Twitter. NZXT is very active on Twitter. And I like seeing companies do that. Fractal Designs that way, Corsairs that way. Companies that are very public like that, that don't really have a veil to hide behind, are the ones that I trust, because they're just open. You know, if customers message them on Twitter or elsewhere and have a problem, they say, hey, go to this contact form, you know, submit a ticket, we'll look for you the same day. And if not, look, you can go back to that tweet, right, and say, hey, I sent this, I haven't gotten a reply yet, and then it's public. So they're not afraid, right, of that interaction, because if it's public, they're going to get on top of it. They don't want to look bad in public. So it's kind of like a check and balance, if you will. But that's why I like Vertigear. I like companies like that. And Vertigear products are great. I have nothing bad to say about their products. Scrolling. Joe Owen says, do you still like Apple? Yes, sir. I use my iPhone still. It's an SE. I like iPhones that are smaller. Just phones in general that are smaller. I don't like the huge phones. I have an LG V30. Epic phone. It's like twice as powerful as this thing in like almost every task out there, but it is too big. I just don't like having to use two hands, right, to reach on top of the screen. I can't do that with one hand because the screen's so dang big. So I like smaller, more compact phones, and the SC is perfect because it's fast enough, good enough camera. You get FaceTime, iMessage. I can use all that with my MacBook. MacBook's great too. Blazing Apple asks, hey Greg, what's your favorite Windows OS? That would be Windows 8. I'm just kidding. Windows 8 was trash. Look, Windows 10 isn't that bad. I mean, I know Windows 10 has some security issues, you know, personal data and tracking, location. Cortana is literally cancer. But Windows 10 is honestly not that bad by comparison. It was a massive improvement over Windows 8, and I think that's why I'm kind of saying that. But I would take, in this order, I would take probably Windows XP, and then Windows 10, and then Windows Vista. That would be what I would, yeah, that would be. I think Vista was just like a side grade, really, from XP. I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it, but in my experience, I've had the best luck with XP, and then Windows 10, only because I've been using Windows 10 probably the longest amount of time. Trucker Bomb, favorite case to build in? I literally answered that question like 3 videos ago. My new favorite case is the Dynamic from Lee & Lee, the 011. It is a beautiful case, so much space, and it is very, very strategically priced at $100 to $130. Let's see. Cameron Johansson asks, what's the max height for the side rad on the Dynamic? Look, all I know is my 360mm rad from Primo Chill fits perfect. There's like no give on the top or bottom. It is slated perfectly for a single 360mm rad. If you have a rad that has like ports on the top and bottom, might be a problem. I don't think that's going to fit, to be honest with you. Yeah, if it fits, it's going to fit with like a millimeter to spare. So I wouldn't push it with a double ported rad. I would just stick to, you know, a rad that has ports on top if you're going with a 360. And honestly, a single 360 like that looks perfect because it fits perfectly in that frame. Okay, scrolling down here. Scrolling down. Someone says my hair seriously looks amazing tonight. Dude, I literally got out of the shower and I just did this once with my hair, or wrong way, this way, and I just called it a day, you know? Sometimes it's just not worth dealing with. I appreciate the compliment, but I didn't expect that. Hugo Viana, Science Studio. Since that is no one do it, could you do a comparison of the new Ryzens with the Intel counterpart with a RX Vega GPU? I mean, yeah, I guess I could. I have Vega 64, the loop, the AIO graphics card. I could probably put together something like that. I want to finish my i5 versus R5 benchmarks though. This one, these are taking a while because I'm running 3 different platforms in 3 different form factors, just to give you guys kind of a unique perspective, because there are already like generally, you know, R5 versus i5 videos out there for the new stuff. So I don't want to do the same thing. I want to do like a case scenario, right? So I'm going to do an ITX build. I'll just go ahead and tell you guys because I appreciate y'all watching. I'll give you the inside scoop. So in a nutshell, what I have here is an ITX build that I'm going to work on. It's going to be a special build, dedicated videos on just building it, because I think you guys are really going to like it. So we have an i5 build, and then we're going to have an R5 2600 build. It's actually 2600X, but for all intents and purposes, it's 2600 because I'm sure they'll overclock roughly the same if it was anything like Ryzen 1 Summit Ridge. And then we're going to have an i5 8400 build, which is going to be using a motherboard that's like identical, right? They're both white PCB boards. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, then you guys have already seen both of those. I use those already to benchmark with. I'm putting together your i5 8600K build now with you know, a small little ITX cooler to kind of give you like a, all right, well, if you want a small form factor ITX build, what do you get for that versus a full size R5 2600 versus a full size i5 8400? Just something different to give you guys. It's a more, like I said, user case scenario where all variables are not the same, because that's generally how it is. Lautaro Gutierrez, sorry about that. Greg, what do you think of Star Citizen? Never even played it. I've heard it once, but that's all I can tell you. What's up, Hardcore Hardware? Do you like memes? Ricky B. Yes, I do. I like memes a lot. If you like memes enough to pay me $1 a month, you can send memes all you want on Discord. I would be thrilled because I love memes. Look, there are some memes out there that are pretty inappropriate. You know, some of them are like racial, some of them are sexist. Look, there's a meme for everything out there. Okay, I don't take offense to mostly anything unless it's just straight up distasteful and wrong or sick. That's another boundary for me. So don't do anything like that on there. But if it's like, you know, edgy, I don't care. You know, you're always gonna find somebody out there who gets offended by something. Unless you're like making it your mission to offend somebody via meme, I don't care. So yeah, throw them our way on Discord if you're up for it. That would be lovely. Bass Q3, thank you for that. Another $2 donation. You can only play one game from now on. Which game? You know what? It's gotta be. This one's tough. It's a tie between. It's a tie. Yeah, it's a tie between. I can't answer this question. This one sucks. This is really tough. I don't even want to answer. I don't want to answer. City Skylines is really great, and you can do a lot with it, so City Skylines is probably going to be my answer, because it's never the same thing. I don't want to pick up campaign game because when I do that, then you play the game once and you're done. So from now on, it'd have to be a simulation game, something you can, you know, try different things every time and it'll still be enjoyable. That's what I think I would do. So between City Skylines and probably like Planet Coaster, which is like the new Roller Coaster Tycoon game. Okay, yeah, I am scrolling down. Nahuel Roa, hello Salazar, I built a system a few months ago, but after connecting a PCI to PCI adapter, the MOBO and processor fried. The aftermath for the PSU doesn't seem bad, and I tested it, but what do you think? You could have had, I mean, that riser cable, PCI to PCIe adapter? PCI? You're talking about like old school PCI? I don't know if you mean like a riser cable or if you're talking about like an old, like just, I'm kind of confused here. But I'll assume they actually have these too. They have, well, this is really funny. They have one of those really old school PCI to PCIe adapters for 40 bucks. That is so strange. I don't know what good that would do you. I mean, it gives you obviously support for PCI hardware, but I mean, they, at what lanes we running here? I don't know enough about this. It's one lane. Wow. Anyway, depending on which one you're talking about, I would assume that little bridge there short-circuited. Here, I'll go ahead and show you guys the screen if you're curious. This is what we're talking about here. So this is like old school. You guys see old school PCIe, or not PCIe, but old school PCI on the bottom, and then a PCIe little bridge up top. I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about, but anyhow, that would be quite unfortunate. If that happened to me, I would be really pissed. But how are you really going to prove that, right? Unless you have like a visual cue that something on that little bridge there fried. Rated R for life, the $5 Canadian donation. Thank you for the super chat. Worth upgrading from the S340 Elite White to the Delidding PC11 Dynamic White? Depends. I mean, if you're dissatisfied with your current look, sure. And you could probably sell the S340 Elite for 50, 60 bucks, you know, if it's in good condition. So if you want a new look, yeah, sure. And if you got white components, I think the PC11 Dynamic's gonna look great. You just got to make sure you have the hardware to fill it out. I wouldn't go with the 11 Dynamic unless you have, you know, at least a triple rad and a ton of fans to fill up the empty space. Or if you want to do a custom loop in it, that would be a different story as well. Eric Adams, love the channel, Greg. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my dude. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Excuse me. All right, here. I just missed a lot of the stuff. Let's see here. Hi, Greg. Will you do an X58 build in the future? Maybe. I don't really have plans to do anything really crazy and old school like that. I mean, there's a time and a place for that. I just don't plan that far ahead, honestly. How do you know if your AIO pump is bad? Doctor, you'll hear it or you won't hear it. Those are the two cues. So if you hear that your pump is like making some really strange noises, you probably have a bearing that's blown, or you probably have just a bad bearing, at which point eventually you will fry the motor. And if you don't hear it at all, then the pump's completely dead, and you're not going to enjoy those temperatures after a while. Once that fluid heats up, you're not going to have that cycle of water, so your water's going to be really hot on one side of your loop, and then your rad's just going to be dissipating basically ambient temperature, room temperature air on the cool side of that loop through your radiator fins. So you'll know either by temps or by how loud it is or how not loud it is if it's silent. Pumped Fortnite. Yo, Greg, love you, bro. Quick question. Ryzen 5 1600 plus GTX 1063 gig combo. Good for any game 1080p medium settings while streaming? Your stream settings are going to have to be pretty... The 1600 could handle streaming well. The frame rate's really what holds it back, but you have the threads to kind of punch through that. I would keep your bit rate around 4 or 3. I don't know. I'd have to. It's more of a case thing. Your 1063 gig is going to be okay for 1080p streaming. Or 1080p gaming, excuse me. This is going to be more or less a CPU dependent resolution, so your CPU is going to be handling more of the workload in 1080p no matter what. I think in probably about half your titles, depending on the game, you should be okay, but you're going to have to adjust settings, and you might have to drop some below medium depending on the title. Scrolling down here, I am scrolling down here. Megan Smith, hi Greg, this is going back a while, but how did you find the temps in P400 with the fans behind the front panel? I'm thinking about doing a water loop in one. Temps were okay. They weren't great. It's not the most friendly case when it comes to cooling because that P400 panel is basically blocked off, and you have a little vent up top and a small one at the bottom as well. It's borderline for a custom loop. I wouldn't recommend that be your first case. If you really like the case, you'll be okay. It might be a little louder. You're going to lose air pressure when your fans, when the air that you're pulling in your case has to turn 90 degrees, you're going to lose efficiency there, anywhere between 20 and 40, 50%, I would say. And it's going to be a bit louder as a result. But, I mean, that's really tough. Yeah, you could do it. I did it. I mean, that was fine. So I guess you could look at it like that. Okay, I think I missed somebody. Oh, I missed a couple of them. I'll make sure I get to the super chats. Here we go. Mr. Nirap Singh, thank you for that 20 whatever that is, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Bask Q3, last one. Can I pay you to be my calc tutor? I would be obliged, my dude, but I frankly don't have the time. Between school, doing this, and some of the other small projects I'm doing on the side right now, it's just a lot. A lot of stuff on my plate. I mean, everyone's busy, I guess, but yeah, it would be cool to tutor. I like teaching, but right now it's just not possible with all the stuff going on. The Silent Observer, what tips would you give for someone starting out on YouTube? I have several videos already discussing this. You got to just do what you like to do. It sounds really cliche. You got to enjoy it, because at first you're not going to get the recognition you feel like you deserve or that you might want. You got to keep going anyway. And even if you don't get the views you want, you don't get the engagement you want, after 6 months, you still got to keep going. You got to do your best to keep your production value high. People really appreciate that. Invest a little bit up front. You know, people say you can start YouTube channels with phones. That's great and all, but that's very rare. Okay, people are very judgmental when it comes to production quality, and that's why I say within your budget, as long as you're comfortable, get decent hardware, at least for the beginning, then eventually you can work your way up to even better stuff. But your viewers will appreciate the effort into making your videos sound good, which is a big one. I would say it's almost as important, if not more important, than the camera, and then making them look good subsequently. Let's see, Dupless Ghost says I missed his thing. Let's see here. Okay, I see a Dupless. Thank you for that $10 super chat, my dude. I can't believe I missed that. I really appreciate your donation. What CPU would you recommend for gaming at max settings, near max settings, and live streaming at the same time? The Ryzen 2700X or the i9 7900X? Money isn't really an issue for me. You could be, depending on the resolution, I don't think either of the CPUs is really going to hold you back. The 2700 I think is by far the better value. I don't really like the i9 7900X from a value standpoint. I think it runs too hot, requires too much voltage, requires a really expensive motherboard. So performance aside, I think that the 2700X is just a far better value, like eons better value for what you're going to be doing. I don't think you'll be disappointed with the streaming capacity of the 2700X, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed with the frame rate that you'll see in game with the 2700X. So that's what I would say. Mini Beats, I saw that, my dude. I saw that. Frenzy says, let's see, I see Frenzy's 2700X or 8700K for live streaming and gaming, $20 difference. These questions are, you guys are like really splitting hairs here. Doesn't matter. Pick either one. You're gonna have a slightly higher frame rate with the 8700K, and you're gonna have slightly better experience streaming in most cases with the 2700X. So do you think that your frame rate you see is more important to you, or is the frame rate that your viewers see more important to you? If it's the latter, it's the 2700X. If it's the former, it's the 8700K. That's what I'm gonna go with. And yes, I for a fact know that that is the case in almost every scenario that I've ran with what I'll do is I'll usually start a stream and I'll just upload that stream to my live control room, and I just won't let the stream go live, and keep it unlisted, and I can monitor the actual like footage, right? You can get a frame rate from that, and output frame rate based on your encoding settings, and actually I think a couple other channels that do similar stuff, but it's just a good way to gauge it. You know, you can gauge performance that way, and I would say stick with one of those two based on your preference, you or your viewer. Intel Ops, do you think the air passing through rads could be hazardous? What do you mean, like you have air trapped in your loop? You try to get air out of your loop as best as possible. Not only is it going to be audible in most cases, but the air is going to get really hot. It can cause issues with the walls inside the radiator. You get a lot of buildup in there that's not air. It'll compress depending on how fast your pump is. If you don't have a locked pump speed, if it's, you know, according to a curve, like a fan curve. So I don't really think I would be comfortable with an air pocket that big in my radiator, if that's what you're referring to. I don't know how else you would be able to like personally inhale fumes from a radiator. It's kind of a weird question. Okay, Rick DA Spartan says, should I sell my first child for a dual 1080 setup? That's about what a dual 1080 setup will cost nowadays, so comes down to which one you value more, my friend. Frenzy Clan, can you do a Hangouts Q&A on stream again? I don't think so, just because I would be liable if any of you did something stupid. And so I think we've been graced to this point. I don't want to push my luck any further. Kareem, when will the new GPUs from NVIDIA arrive? Nobody knows. DJ Drag... What? I don't even understand your question. Dreamer. Greg, what could be a better editing laptop in 2018? I have an HT PC and gaming PC, so I don't want to add one more, but I need something mobile more for editing. Editing laptop. Look, I use Apple for my editing laptop because I appreciate the well-optimized software at Apple's disposal. Mac OS has, of course, Final Cut Pro, and then also iMovie, not Movie Maker. I use iMovie a lot. Actually, all of our CES footage from 2018, that entire playlist was edited with iMovie. I don't know if you guys could tell, you probably could, but it's a great low-profile software. And things render super quick because it's doing it as you're editing. And same goes for Final Cut Pro. Of course, you have more hands-on control with Final Cut Pro. So something to consider. Let's see, scrolling down. I see a Dupless. I'm glad you appreciate that. Yeah, then do 120 FPS once I get a monitor. It sounds good. Opinion question from Flame Smoke. He asks, wait, excuse me, I lost your question. There we go. Thoughts on the blind hate against Apple? I think there are a few reasons why it's a question you can't really answer in 2 or 3 sentences. But I'll just go down the bullet list here. So Apple's generally more expensive for equitable hardware. I don't think people appreciate the value of Mac OS. I don't think people, in some cases, care for Mac OS because it's, to some extent, locked down, especially from a gaming perspective. I don't think people like Apple because Apple is on top in several markets, not just in the mobile market. They excel, they have a niche, and they do really well. And that's why their stock is so valuable. That's why their company is as valuable as it is. People don't like that. People like to hit on the guy that, not hit on, but they like to beat up the guy who's on top because they like seeing this competition kind of roll out. And when one guy's been the top dog for so long, you just feel like you got to punch him a couple times and remind him that he's still human. And I feel like that's part of the reason why people hate on Apple. I have plenty of reasons why. But I don't know. It's also the proprietary stuff. That's another thing. Sorry about that. Yeah, Apple's really proprietary. They're anal about you fixing their stuff. They literally have proprietary screws, right, for screw heads that you don't have in normal box stores. So you can't go up and just like buy a toolkit that comes with that screw head and be able to torque that screw, right? That's Apple for you. So that's another reason why people don't like things that are proprietary like that. When they try to keep things locked down, it's just an invitation for people to tinker with them more because they want to be able to say that they got into an Apple product and tweaked with it. So Victorus22, thank you for that $5 New Zealand dollar, my dude. Greetings from New Zealand. Just joined chat, so forgive me if you have been asked this. What do you think of the Linus Apple situation? I have no clue what you're talking about, to be honest with you. Are you talking about something with his Mac? He had an iMac, didn't he? Something happened with that. A couple things happened with Apple. I think they told him that he couldn't repair something. I saw that tweet. I need to know more context, but I mean, that's Apple for you guys. Like, that's Apple. And when they can't fix their own stuff or they refuse to fix their own stuff, like, that's a huge problem because it's already proprietary to begin with. So how do you expect me to fix your stuff if you won't give me the tools to fix it, right? So it's just, I think that's a big stigma people have with Apple, right? You can pop up in any desktop on Windows and tweak it for the most part. Apple, it's a lot more difficult. And people, for the most part, are polarized to that. They either like that it's so proprietary because it usually runs well and they have experts geniuses that can fix your stuff for you, right? And customer service is generally really good with Apple. But on the other side, if they refuse to help you or if you have to pay stack of cash to get it fixed, that's a problem. Yeah, let's see. Benby, I don't even know how to say that. Says Apple says refurbishment is counterfeiting. They sued and lost a case recently. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of legality involved with that. But just on the surface, here's what I would say: if you purchase a product, are you technically signing? Are you agreeing to terms of service? Are you signing a paper or document saying that you're not going to open this product and tinker with it? You'll void your warranty. I mean, that's understood. But, like, are you signing something that prevents you as a person, as a customer, from upgrading, tweaking hardware? Maybe not software. That's obviously, that's EULA stuff. But, hardware, that's where it gets really iffy. So you get a lot of discussions on that. Anthony Malone, have watched your vids for a while. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate that. Means a lot to me. All caps. Explain why overclocking increases performance. Because clock speeds too high only return diminishing returns. All caps. I have videos on this, literally answering that question. Go to my Minute Science playlist and watch why do CPUs get so hot. That'll answer your question. Let's see. Flamesmoke says Apple refused to repair Linus's iMac Pro because he tore it down and broke it in the process. Sad. I totally get why they aren't repairing it, but I guess they probably should. And it's more of a PR issue at that point. Like, of course, Linus is going to blow that up and show everybody who follows them that, hey, look, Apple are being dicks right now. They're not fixing our stuff. But on the surface, if what you're saying is true, I mean, if he opened it and he started tinkering with shit and then it broke, it's not under warranty anymore, first off. And then on top of that, if you broke something that's not meant to be broke, the only way to do that is to actually, like, drop it, right, with the thing open, because it's got a hard shell around it. They might not even have the technicians on hand available to fix that stuff. They might not have the components. They might not even sell the individual components to fix that stuff. They have to buy the whole board and then give you pieces of it, right? And Apple's not generally going to do that unless you're a special client. And I guess in Apple's eyes, Linus isn't a special client, which is a disappointment. Linus is a cool guy, but when you tinker with Apple stuff, Apple's gonna get you. They're gonna make sure you don't touch their stuff again. Yeah. Let's see. Scrolling down here, Killer Phobia. Why was I not informed of this live stream? That is all YouTube, and I apologize for that. I wish YouTube was just a friendlier platform in that regard. Just Anth, would you mind reviewing a build I'm planning on building soon? I made a list on PC Part Perk and sending the link on Twitter if you want. Yeah, sure. I can't promise I'll get to it. It just takes a lot of time to evaluate all this stuff, but I can look through it, kind of skim through it, and tell you. I'll try to look for you. If a ton of people send me links, though, I'm not going to probably get to it. I just can't go through that many. Gamers in mind, they cracked the screen on the Max. They cracked the screen on the Max. Gamers in mind. That makes no sense. I don't understand context there. Joe D, what's up? What's up, Joe? What's going on? Dr. X99, have you played Universe Sandbox? Doctor, I benchmark with Universe Sandbox. I have a video, like, of me just playing the game and watching CPU utilization unfold in real time. So type in Science Studio Universe Sandbox and you'll get to watch that video. Yeah, YouTube is just, they're just being a bunch of pricks right now. I'm probably going to get demonetized for saying that. Example A. Technol Bismol. Have you ever considered doing a modern day review for the Cooler Master Hyper 612 V2 air cooler, considering its $35 price tag? Cooler Master Hyper 612. Let's see what that looks like. Hyper 612. I mean, it looks kind of cheap, not gonna lie. Generates only 20 dB. I find that hard to believe. What size fan is that? Oh, I thought this was one of those small coolers. It looked really small in the picture. It's just the cooler is so huge that it looked tiny. It looked like there was like an 80 mil fan on that. So I take back my previous statement. It looks pretty beefy, to be honest. What is that, 6 heat pipes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's pretty beefy. Was that 250 watt TDP? Looking good. I wish it looked a little prettier on top, though. You know, when you come from the Dark Rock Pro 4 to this still looks much cheaper by comparison. I don't know. I might do it just to do it, but I don't think I would ever personally use that in a build. Oh, okay. James Stokes says, I think it may be an issue with the store not having a technician that has the proper training. Linus was willing to pay for the repairs knowing they broke warranty. Yeah, but sometimes it's not even that easy because Apple might have to go through a couple hoops to get whatever they tinkered with fixed. And so, yeah. Yeah, Linus knew it wasn't under warranty anymore. He wanted to pay for the parts repair, but they still didn't want to fix it. What was he doing exactly? I need to know exactly what he's doing. Because depending on what he was tinkering with and what broke, that will explain the whole situation. So if you explain that, let me know. I want more context. Dylan Jelvik, whatever. Sorry about that. It's a cool last name though. So when is Ed from TechSource gonna make a custom loop for your guys' competition? Oh, I'm still waiting. How long has it been? Like a year? It's been like a year. Come on, Ed. I want to see your second one. I think he built the second one. It took him like 6 months to do it, but I'm pretty sure he built the second one. A second hardline build, I mean. Superman, I'm on your mom. Someone asked if I have a girlfriend. I have a wife. Thank you very much. Ben Wheeler, 1080 Ti or 1180. I don't even know anything about the 1180, so that's kind of an invalid question in my book. Scrolling. David Steele, hey Greg, first of all, thanks for the great content you do. Appreciate that. Just wanted to ask what I can do to reduce my CPU bottleneck on my 7600 non-K with a 1070. What game you playing? There's not much you can be able to do to reduce your CPU bottleneck apart from switching your CPUs out. If it's locked, then there's nothing else you can do to reduce your bottleneck that I can think of off the top of my head. If it's thermal throttling, you can delid. Maybe delidding a locked i5 would be kind of weird. I think you're kind of at a dead end there. I mean, that's one of the disadvantages of purchasing a quad-core i5. I know you bought it back when that was all Intel offered, but still, if you're getting CPU bottlenecks, your CPU is maxing out 100% utilization in many games, which I don't think it should. It's probably a few games you're looking at in particular. Then you got to upgrade to something that has more threads, and this still has a decent clock speed. Would you ever want a BGA CPU over a PGA one? I've come to appreciate PGA a bit more recently. Just working with Ryzen more often. At first I was like, this is dumb. Why are there pins on the CPU? Like, why can't you just hide them in the motherboard? But I've seen probably as many bent pins on motherboards from Intel as I have bent pins on CPUs from Ryzen. So I kind of see it both ways. I think it's an annoyance that the way that the Ryzen CPU locks into the motherboard is just stupid in my book, because when you pull off coolers, sometimes the CPU just comes ripped out of the socket with it. I think that's really stupid. It's just a poor design choice. I wish they would find a more efficient way to lock it. The problem is, because the IHS literally covers almost the entire chip, it's kind of hard to develop a new system to secure the CPU. So I think it's more or less in the design choice of the CPU at this point. Let's see here. How am I doing it? Arza says, bro, go to bed. It's only 10 p.m., dude. I probably look tired because the camera's just like, it's just such a low quality camera. You can't see all my beautiful reflections on my skin. Is AMD coming out with, this from Zudane, is AMD coming out with another 3 series this year? Would that even make sense after Raven Ridge? I am not expecting them to anytime soon. If they do, it's just like an afterthought. Because to be honest, Ryzen Plus wasn't a huge improvement from any like performance standpoint over Ryzen. So coming out with a Ryzen 3 Plus would just be like, okay, come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just like, let's just get this one over with. Let's wait for the real Ryzen 2 stuff. Which, by the way, Ryzen 2, Zen Plus, they're different things. Totally different things, but people still insist on calling Ryzen 2, even though AMD hasn't actually referred to this generation of CPUs as Ryzen 2. They just call it Ryzen 2nd generation. So reviewers are giving it the name Ryzen 2, but what people think of when they see Ryzen 2, to my knowledge, is the next step. It's the next one, right? The big release that we expect will have, well, we say that, but that we expect to have even more substantial improvements over, I mean, what, we saw like a 3% IPC jump with Zen Plus. So Ryzen 2, whatever that ends up being, hopefully will be a much larger jump than we saw with this one. Venomous Teddy, yes, Spanish origins. My father is Spanish, from Spain. More specifically, northern Spain, Castile area. Sean Fernandez got a question. How small will CPUs get before we reach the limit? I have a video on this. Check out quantum. I have a video on quantum computing. I talked briefly about the transistor limit, right? It's around 5 nanometers. We have ways of getting around that now. We were always worried about quantum tunneling, but we have technologies in the world. I mean, look, Intel, I think, has come up with a 4 nanometer CPU, a CPU on a 4 nanometer node. So it's, you know, every time we think we hit a wall, we find a way to get around the wall, and that's basically been the trend lately. But we expected around 5 nanometers would be that end, that at which point electrons would just tunnel right through the barrier unhindered, because the gap is so small. In a really rudimentary way of explaining it is what quantum tunneling is. So a transistor doesn't have an on-off state. It's just always on. Electrons are always flowing through. So it's not a transistor anymore. Think of transistors like switches. That's what they do. Scrolling down here. Anthony, 6151, a bit off topic. Not a problem, Anthony. But what are your thoughts on the Second Amendment? I steer clear of politics in almost all cases. I talk a little bit about economics, politics in general. I will not go into debatable topics like that. This is a science channel, not a politics channel. Joe D, Greg, have you gotten your engineering degree? Yes, sir. Got my engineering degree last year. In fact, you might be able to see it. That big thing right there. That, sir, is my degree, a bachelor's degree in petroleum engineering. Absolute MMA 101. What's your zodiac sign? I was born in late October. I'm a Scorpio, if you believe in that kind of stuff. Bordy, ever build in the P300? Yes, I built in it. Type in P300 Science Studio. You can watch that video all about it. Denkarino, do you think it's worth it to upgrade from first generation Ryzen? To what, though? You got to be specific, Bordy. Or, not Bordy, sorry, Denkarino. What do you want to upgrade to? That's what I need to know. Justin W., that $10 Canadian, my dude. He tells me to go buy coffee. And you know what? That's kind of funny, because that would actually buy me almost exactly 1 cup of coffee at Starbucks or a similar joint, right? So, good thing I don't drink coffee. Honestly, I'll probably spend it on like Pop-Tarts or something. That's what gets me through the day. The greatness, $1.99. How much for a follow on Twitter? What do you mean? Oh, you want me to follow you on Twitter? Oh, I don't know about that. I'll have to see. We'll negotiate after the live stream. Benoit Levescu. I probably butchered that. The 1180 is going to be like 10% faster than 1080 Ti. Cost less and consume less power. We'll see. Don't put your money on that, because nobody knows. Okay, Mini Beats. I think it'd be cool if you designed your own PC case and did videos around that. Also, Control-Shift-Escape is the fast hotkey for Task Manager. Those are my super chats. Control-Shift-Escape. I always use Control-Delete. That's how I get into Task Manager. Oh, I was what you were saying. You don't have to go into the little menu to click Task. See, this is because I was used to XP. I've always done Control-Delete. It's just like what's engraved in my mind. What do we have here? I am looking at... All right, we got a pretty decent showing right now. 300 or so people watching. Not bad for a Sunday night. Thank you guys again for supporting the channel just by watching this live stream. You don't have to donate or anything like that. You guys just watching is enough for me. It's just a kick in the behind it. Keep grinding, because this is why I do it. I do it for the guys who are willing to take time out of the day to watch a live stream like this. And geez, especially if the guys are willing to donate $10 for me to buy coffee. I got Rio. I don't even. Thank you, Rio has a guitar for your $10 donate, but I do not like coffee. So I hope you're not gonna be disappointed when I don't spend $10 on coffee and instead buy Pop-Tarts, because that's what I do. I buy Pop-Tarts, and Hot Pockets. Which is a Pop-Tart technically like a cold Hot Pocket? That's one of those like, I think they have the same architecture, right? Jesus, I sound like an engineer. That's stupid. They have the same, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. They look the same. Jesus, there's like a jelly goo filling in the middle, and then there's like a crusty shell on the outside. You guys get where I'm going with this. Anyway, back on topic here. Blame Smoke. Also, double pressing force restarted it. Double pressing force? I don't get that. Rio has a guitar. Another $2 just to say damn. Really? Come on, man. You could have made more use out of that $2. But thank you for it anyway. I appreciate that. Pizza rolls better than Hot Pockets. You know, Superman, I gotta be honest with you. I actually agree. I actually agree. Benny says, you graduated college, don't need to eat Hot Pockets anymore, LOL. I gotta be honest with you, I still kind of do. Like, I don't make a lot of money. I'm not rolling in dough. My car cost $20,000. Like, it's not an expensive car. I live in an apartment that is frankly pretty expensive for what it is, but I'm not paying, you know, a ton of money to live here. This is like 1,300 square feet. So, like, I could be making more money working as an engineer, for sure, but I like doing this more, and that's why, I mean, I do it for me because I love it, but I also do it because I love you guys. I love working with you guys. Levitan asks if I'm rich. Hopefully what I just said answers that question for you. You said, ask you anything. Can I have your GTX 1080? No, you can't. I'm sorry, Robert. So sorry. And I actually bought those myself. Something you guys probably don't even know. I bought both of those 1080s myself. Granted, it was before the prices went way up, but I did buy it before. All right, we're going to answer a couple more here. I've been going at this for like an hour and 20 minutes or so. My voice is getting shot as usual around this time because I'm the only one talking. So it puts a strain on my vocal cords. Bizer, I think I said that right. Hey, Greg, what CPU do you think would pair better with a 1063 gig value-wise? I'm thinking about the R5 1600. Bizer, that's a great choice. That's a really good choice for a CPU to pair with that. You could even upgrade it at some point your 1060 to a 1070 with an R5 1600 or 2600, and you're still gonna be sitting good in the neighborhood. It's a great balance. So yeah, one of the best ones in my opinion, best combos is the R5 1600. 6 cores is better than 4, and something like a 1060 or 1070 or a 580 or 480 on AMD's side. Daniel Suzuki, that's a cool last name. I think is that your real last name, or are you just going after the manufacturer? Do you have advice on where to find GPUs for MSRP? Closest you're going to get, my friend, is used. Unless you just scoop up a really sweet deal on Newegg. Just check Newegg and Amazon every single day. Scroll through even the open box stuff, the refurbished stuff. Scroll through it all. You might find a graphics card or two. You might get lucky. Okay, here, let's see. James Hemman. Is it worth doing a custom loop while in college and having to move apartments around? Only if you're gonna, I would say if you're gonna be moving every 3 months, like having a custom loop is okay, because you're gonna preferably drain the loop anyway after 3 months. But if you're moving once a month, that's too much. That's a lot of stress on the tubing too. So it depends on how much you move. But if you're moving every 3 months or later, 3 months or longer, then I would say that's probably okay. Avocado on PC wants me to grow out my beard. Guys, I seriously would, but it's just the most annoying thing ever. It just gets so scratchy and it doesn't look good. You know, there's like that awkward phase where it's like not filled in. That's me right now. And I'm probably going to shave after this just because you pointed it out. Anyway, Absolute MMA, what's coming up next for our GTX 1180 or GTX 2080? No idea, dude. I have no info for you. All this is speculation at this point. Any clue as to when the 11 series cards will come out? No clue. I don't have any inside information. I don't even talk to NVIDIA directly. I don't get NVIDIA samples from anybody except after products have launched. Maybe I get some from companies that already have these in stock, but I don't get initial launched graphics cards. Let's see. Mojo Man 265 from NVIDIA side anyway, I should say. Mojo Man, what's going on, my dude? Hey, Greg, do you still play on the Steam group chat? I've been deployed for the last year. Mojo, are you still in the Discord? If you're still in the Discord, then boom, there you go. But I don't usually interact much with the Steam group anymore because it was getting a little out of hand. And so the way I decided to handle that was with Patreon. So people who actually genuinely want to hang out with me can pay $1 a month. That's like all I require for you to be able to join Discord and talk to me one-on-one and whatnot. If you think that's even worth it, you might not think it's worth it, that's fine. But for the people who do think it's worth it, that's why it's there. So if you want to get down and dirty, I'm trying to get into the process of playing games with more people. I just really, when I find the time, it's for maybe an hour, and then trying to get people in Discord to play. You know, trying to get like 3 or 4 people. Every now and then I have someone ask, and it's like as I'm getting off, like Oddball tried to do that, and I felt really bad because he was like, play with me, and I didn't realize that he said that until I got out of the game. You know, he runs our Discord server, so yeah, I kind of felt bad about that. It's really hard to coordinate gaming stuff now. We're just much bigger, frankly, than we used to be, and so it's hard to keep up. Yeah, I'll get better at it. I'm trying to make the Patreon donors feel like they're getting something for what they're paying. McRaw, €5. No, that's Is that euro? Yeah, 5 euro. My dude, thank you. Love your vids. Keep it up. Question: i7 8700K or Ryzen 2700 mainly for gaming at 1440p, but also photo editing and programming at uni. 8700K, if you're going to mostly play video games, then the 8700K is fine. And at 1440p, honestly, those CPUs are going to get pretty close to each other. If you're choosing between the 2700 and the 2700X, though, I don't even know about that. I haven't tested the 2700. I would say 8700K is a better bet for gaming right now. Still, I mean, it is, just factually, but the 2700 is probably more future-proof in the long run. It's a tough one. Either one you're going to be perfectly happy with. So just pick the one you feel more comfortable with, to be honest. The greatness. I wish your channel didn't die. You deserve more. Channel, you mean doesn't die? I hope it didn't die. It's not dead. It's still alive. But thank you. Thank you for another $1.99. Dude, you know I gotta keep doing that. I appreciate it, though. Scrolling down here. Okay, all right. Two more questions. After the super chats. Sander McDonald, $5 Canadian. Thank you for that. Hey, I'm currently designing a custom heatsink for the X99, 45 nanometer of clearance and a 120mm fan. Could you change your opinion of the board? X99E ITX? Could you change your opinion of the board? I'm confused about what you're asking, Sander. I don't think I have an opinion on the X99 board. EITX. Are you talking about the ASRock board? That's an old video. I'd have to even go back and look at what I said about that. But I changed. I think what I said in that video was that having X99 and an ITX form factor is a little counterintuitive, right? Because you want the best overclocks possible on that, and you really can't get them with a small form factor system. And on top of that, you're losing the extra PCIe lanes, right? You're going to have much higher heat output depending on the CPU you throw in there. It's just, you know, if you want to just a game with and stuff, throwing an i7 in there is going to be a much better bet, like a, you know, consumer level i7. I'm not an enthusiast level i7. Going to give you a much smoother experience gaming anyway. Let's see, Euromodin, $2 donation. Thank you for that. Is it just me, or is 6 core 6 thread i5 too late in the game? It's not really too late in the game. If all you do is play video games, the i5 is still a great value, and 6 cores is just it's an added bonus from 4. Yeah, it's not the most future proof, but you know, it's just it is a limiting factor. It will become a limiting factor probably before anything else in your system, just straight up. Sander, to clarify, it's more feasible with decent cooling. Okay, yeah, it's more feasible with decent cooling, but like, what case are you using, right, to cool that CPU? Well, you have to have a large heatsink, or you have to have a larger small form factor case. At which point, like, if it's not a really small ITX case, what's the point? Just buy a bigger one that costs less, you know, a bigger motherboard that is generally gonna be less expensive. You also get the added lanes, so you can take advantage of multiple graphics cards. You can throw a Wi-Fi card or a capture card in there, blah blah blah. You see what I'm saying? So you're losing things at the same time that you decide to shrink the overall form factor with X99 in particular. I just think it's Shadow, how would you rate your time in Louisiana, more specifically your ULL experience? I'm from right outside of Baton Rouge, and I'm looking at going to Southeastern for computer science. UL was really cool. I really liked it. It's definitely like a very homely college. It's not too big. I think like 10 to 15,000 students, so it's on the average size. I don't like the fact that the campus is split in two. So to go to the gym or to like the park or anything like that, you had to walk about 2 blocks down. No, is it Louisiana Avenue? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Louisiana Avenue. Oh, no, Johnson Street. Johnson Street, that's the one. It's on the left side. Yeah, Johnson Street is the one you got to walk down to get to the gym and stuff, and I hated that. I did not like having to walk that far for the gym. So if you try to stay active, stay athletic in school, and that's going to be an issue unless you feel comfortable driving there every day. My other school was really nice because the gym was like right on campus, so that was cool. All right, one more question. Let's see. Archimedes, yes, I'm reviewing the Scythe cooler, the low-profile Scythe cooler. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but I'm going to review a really low-profile Scythe cooler here soon. Stay tuned for that. One more question. I'm looking for a really juicy question. Really juicy. You guys better throw some really juicy stuff at me, or Be a little bitter. Give me some juice, you guys. Sander, I disagree that SLI is dead. I don't think SLI is dead. I think it definitely has a place in the market. Chownsy, it wasn't walking to go work out. Dude, it was just a time thing. It took 30 minutes to get there if you wanted to walk there. That's inconvenient. I could run on a treadmill for 5 minutes and get the same workout. You see what I'm saying? So it was just a waste of my time because I was also a full-time student and I was also a full-time YouTuber. So I was working on building a business at the same time as I was trying to keep my GPA at 3.8. And then I had to waste 30 minutes to go to the gym, right? So that was my inconvenience. That's all I was pointing that out for. See, Kryptonic HDS, he says, really juicy question. How comfortable is that vertigo chair? I talked about it earlier in the live stream. Don't worry, folks, that doesn't count. Do you like juice? From David Steele. Yes, I do. I see here. Origin Zagonjori. This is a good question. For 5 years, for the next 5 years, 8700K or 2700X? I think 2700X. I think the extra 2 cores and 4 threads will come in more handy 5 years from now than the 8700K will. That's my personal opinion. You might not agree with that, but if I was looking like severe long-term, I would go with the higher core count chip that still could maintain a decent frequency, and right now that's the 2700X. It has great RAM support out of the box, which was an impressive jump, and it has a very low power or high power tolerance up to a point. So you can run chip at 4 gigahertz or 4.1 gigahertz on very low power consumption, which is really good. Low voltage requirements. It's a big improvement with respect to that, not necessarily from the IPC side again. But it's a big improvement from a power delivery standpoint and from a voltage requirement standpoint. So you guys, I appreciate all of you watching. I'm very sorry that I didn't get to some of your questions. Again, I do these every Sunday night. I just open it up, live stream, Q&A, whatever you guys want to talk about. It's really here for you guys. And I know I'm not going to get to every question every week. These weeks do fly by, though. You guys blink. We'll be here this time next week, and I will do my best to get to all of your questions. So thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to click the button now. This is so sad. I don't like doing this. I love talking to you guys, but stick around. We have a really cool video on an i5 versus R5 versus i5 comparison, and then we'll be doing some cooler reviews and a really sweet ITX PC build also hopefully this week, and a cool graphics card from Galax. I'm excited about that one too. Alright guys, this is Science Studio. Thanks for watching the live stream with us and asking all of your lovely questions.